Most people spend $150,000 on one of these vans, and within 18 months, they realize they bought the wrong one for their lifestyle. And the painful part? The warning signs were there before they signed. The Storyteller Overland Mode and the Winnebago Revel are the two most serious 4WD campervans on the market right now, in the US and in Europe, and they look like competitors. Same platform, similar price, similar promise, but they're built for fundamentally different people, and confusing the two is a $150,000 mistake. I'm going to show you exactly where each van wins, where each one quietly fails, and at the end, give you a direct verdict on who should buy which. Not a "it depends" answer, a real one. No brand hype, no brochure copy, just the information you need before you wire a deposit. Section 1. Setting the stage. These two vans get lumped together constantly. That's already the first mistake. Both run a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 4x4, 144-inch wheelbase, diesel, $130,000 to $160,000 depending on trim. On paper, almost identical, but the design philosophy is not. The Winnebago Revel has been on the market since 2017, built by one of the oldest RV manufacturers in North America. That institutional background shaped every decision in ways that help certain buyers and quietly limit others. The Storyteller Overland Mode came later, built by a team that came from outside the traditional RV industry, targeting adventure-first buyers who camp more than they park. Same starting point, very different destination, and the differences between those destinations are hidden, which is exactly why they catch buyers off guard. Let's start where the money is most at stake, off-road capability, because one of these vans has hardware the other doesn't, and it changes everything depending on where you actually drive. Section 2. Off-road. Hardware versus software. Both vans run the Mercedes 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system from the factory. That's the baseline, and it's a solid one. But what Storyteller built on top of that baseline is where things get interesting. The Storyteller Mode comes standard with an OME suspension lift and a rear Detroit locker. For those not familiar, when you hit terrain where one rear wheel loses traction, the Detroit locker mechanically forces both rear wheels to spin together. No sensor delay, no electronic decision-making, pure mechanical grip. The Revel uses an active brake-based traction control. It's smart, it's been refined over the years, and for 90% of the terrain most buyers will ever see, it works well. But here's the controversial line, and I mean it. If you're not genuinely going off-road, if your adventure is a paved campground with a gravel entrance, buying the Storyteller Mode for the lacquer is like buying a winch for a driveway. You're paying for capability you'll never use. And a lot of buyers are doing exactly that. They buy the mode because it feels more serious, because it looks more capable, and then they spend 80% of their nights on forest service roads that the Revel handles just as well. Now, if you are doing technical terrain, washouts, deep sand, steep shelf roads with one wheel off situations, the mechanical locker isn't a luxury, it's a safety margin. Know which category you're in before you spend the extra. One more thing buyers often don't know. The Detroit locker changes how the van handles on paved roads. It creates resistance in tight turns. It's not a flaw, it's physics. But if you're driving narrow mountain switchbacks or hairpin exits, you'll feel it. Factor that in. But off-road hardware is only half the picture, because once you're parked for a night, a week, or a month, you're living inside this thing. And that's where these two vans go in completely different directions. Section 3. Interior. Livability versus gear capacity. The Revel's interior is efficiently compact. The bed folds up against the wall, revealing the rear garage that's become one of the most talked about features in the van world. Full-size bikes, a small motorcycle, surfboards, kayaks. If your adventure revolves around hauling gear, that garage is genuinely transformative. The Storyteller Overland Mode doesn't have a rear garage in that same form. What it has, instead, is a more distributed, livable interior, better kitchen organization, more intentional storage spread throughout the van, and a design language that feels more residential, more like someone thought about what it's like to actually live here rather than what it looks like in photos. Let me give you a real-world scenario that illustrates this better than any spec sheet.
I spoke with an owner, let's call him Mark, who bought a Revel specifically for mountain biking. 2 bikes in the garage, weekend trips to Colorado and Utah. Loved it for the first 6 months. But by month 10, he was barely using the garage. He'd switched to a bike rack, and he found himself wishing he had more usable kitchen counter space, a better seating area, a more comfortable place to spend a rainy afternoon. The garage he optimized for had become dead weight. His exact words, "I bought a garage that fits bikes. I should have bought a home that fits my life." That's not a knock on Revel, that's a mismatch between marketing and reality, and it's extremely common. For full-timers, people living in the van 150 nights per year, the Storyteller's interior livability creates less friction over time. For dedicated gear sport travelers who know exactly what they're hauling and how often, the Revel's garage is a legitimate, meaningful advantage. Now let's talk about what powers everything inside, the electrical system. Because in 2024, this is no longer a secondary spec, it's a deal breaker. Both vans ship with lithium battery systems and solar. Both support shore power. At the base level, both will run your lights, charge your devices, and keep a compressor fridge going. That's table stakes now. The difference is in off-grid headroom, how many days you can operate without hookups, and how comfortably you can run power-intensive things like an air conditioning system. The Storyteller mode was designed with what they call an off-grid first philosophy. More base solar, higher base lithium capacity, and critically, a more accessible architecture for expansion. Buyers who want to push the system further report that it's easier to do so on the Storyteller platform without fighting the OEM design. The Revel has improved with each model year, and current versions are genuinely capable, but the underlying design philosophy starts from what does a typical camper need, rather than what does someone going 10 days without a hookup need. That gap is small until the day it matters, and then it matters a lot. One note that applies to both: the Sprinter platform supports robust aftermarket electrical upgrades, Victron, Battleborn, and Volta. If you're a serious boondocker, some buyers purchase the base van and rebuild the electrical system to spec. If that's your path, the OEM system is less critical. The platform is what matters, and both platforms accommodate upgrades equally. But here's the section I want every international viewer to pay close attention to, because if you're buying in Europe, this comparison changes meaningfully. The European angle. Most YouTube content on these two vans is written entirely from a North American perspective, and if you're a buyer in Germany, France, the UK, Scandinavia, or the Benelux countries, that context gap could genuinely cost you. Here's what changes in Europe. Road width. The extended Sprinter 144 is wide in southern France, northern Italy, and virtually every medieval town center in Europe. This van will not fit, not occasionally, frequently. Buyers who research in the US, import one of these, and then try to drive it through Tuscany in peak summer discover this very quickly. If your European itinerary involves secondary roads and old towns, and let's be honest, that's most of Europe's appeal, you need to research route compatibility before you commit. Fuel cost. Diesel in Europe fluctuates significantly and has been high. A Sprinter 4x4 with aggressive tires gets worse fuel economy than the base Sprinter. This is predictable. Budget for it. Ferry costs. Crossing to Corsica, the Faroe Islands, the Greek islands, ferry pricing is based on vehicle length and height. These vans are tall and long. That's real money on multi-island trips. Insurance classification. In several European countries, a Sprinter conversion of this type falls into an ambiguous category between a commercial vehicle and a leisure vehicle. Your insurance premium, your toll classification, and even your camping legality can be affected. Get this sorted before you drive it off the import dock. Availability. The Revel has some European presence through importers. Storyteller Overland has less established European distribution as of now. Warranty service outside North America on both vehicles is a complicated situation you need to resolve before purchasing, not after. The point isn't that these vans don't work in Europe. Many buyers use them beautifully across the continent. The point is that European buyers have an additional layer of homework that American buyers don't, and ignoring it is expensive. All right, let's talk about the thing everyone wants to skip over because it's uncomfortable. What happens when something goes wrong? Reliability, service, and real ownership costs. The Sprinter platform itself is proven. Mercedes makes millions of them. Diesel mechanics who know the engine exist in most major metros on both continents. That's the good news. The conversion layer, the part either company built, is where reliability diverges. Winnebago has been building conversions for over 60 years. They have a wider dealer network, more institutionalized warranty processes, and more accumulated knowledge of what fails and how to fix it. When something breaks on a Revel, and things do break on every vehicle conversion at this price point, the pipeline for resolution is more established. Storyteller Overland is a younger company that grew fast. Their community is passionate, and their product has improved significantly since launch. But early adopters experienced warranty response challenges that are documented publicly in owner forums. They've addressed many of these.
But if you're buying a used Storyteller outside the factory warranty window, the support structure is thinner. For retirees planning extended trips, people for whom a week-long breakdown is not just inconvenient, but a genuine disruption to a planned life chapter, Winnebago's service infrastructure is a real advantage worth paying attention to. Ownership cost reality check. Budget $2,500 to $4,000 annually for Sprinter maintenance if you're putting serious miles on the vehicle. Neither brand changes this math. Budget an additional $5,000 to $15,000 in year one for the upgrades you'll wish came standard. Better tires, an awning, a solar expansion, a rooftop storage system. This happens with both vans reliably because both arrive capable but not complete for individual use cases. Insurance. Get quotes before you buy. Specialty RV policies on these vans can vary by $800 to $1,200 annually based on classification. Progressive and National General are the dominant players in the U.S. Don't assume. One number worth knowing before you walk into any dealership. Used Revels show up in the secondary market roughly 15 to 20% more frequently than used Storytellers. More supply means more price competition for buyers, but it also tells you something about the ownership cycle. People move on from them, whether that's because the van didn't fit their life or simply because it's an older, more established product with more units in the field is a question worth sitting with. And one more. Add an aggressive tire package and a lift to either Sprinter platform and expect to lose 1 to 2 mpgs off your baseline fuel economy. Over 20,000 miles a year, that's not nothing. Section 7. Who should buy which? The verdict. Here it is, no hedging. Buy the Winnebago Revel if you travel with bikes, boards, or large gear and will actually use the rear garage regularly. You're a retiree or cautious buyer who wants established warranty and service infrastructure. You're buying used and want a more liquid, easier-to-price resale market. You're new to van life and want the platform with more community resources, YouTube tutorials, and dealer familiarity. You're in Europe and want the option with slightly more import and service precedent. Buy the Storyteller Overland mode if you're doing genuine off-road travel and want the mechanical advantage of the Detroit locker, not just the feeling of capability, but the actual hardware. You're a full-timer who will spend more nights inside the van than in front of it, and livability over 200 nights matters more than gear storage. You want an interior design that will look current in 5 years rather than dated. You're comfortable being an early adopter with a brand that's still building its service network. You prioritize off-grid electrical performance from the factory. And here's my final verdict, the one I'll defend in the comments. The Storyteller Overland mode is the more intentionally designed van. It was built by people who studied van life deeply and made deliberate decisions. The interior philosophy, the off-road hardware, the electrical architecture, these reflect a clearer point of view about what this type of vehicle should be. The Winnebago Revel is the smarter financial bet, particularly for buyers who prioritize service security, resale predictability, and a brand that will be answering warranty calls 5 years from now. The Storyteller is the better van. The Revel is the safer purchase. Here's the version of that truth that actually matters. If you buy the Revel, you'll probably never regret it. If you buy the Storyteller and never use its capability, the locker, the lift, the off-grid headroom, you might spend years driving a van that quietly outclasses every trip you take it on.
That's not a failure of the van, that's a failure of self-knowledge, and it's the most expensive mistake in this category. Figure out who you actually are as a traveler, not who you want to be, before you sign. That distinction is worth more than anything else in this video. One question, I want you to answer it right now in the comments. If you had to sign the contract today, which one are you wiring money for, and why? Not which one you like, not which one looks better. Which one are you actually buying, and what's the reason that tips it for you? I read every comment, and I'll be responding directly to the most interesting answers this week. And if you're still in research mode, good, that's the right place to be. Hit subscribe because next week I'm publishing a breakdown of what I'd actually negotiate off MSRP on both of these and what dealerships are counting on you not knowing. That video will save you money. I'll see you there.